Yeah, your mic.
Good afternoon. Welcome once again to Whispering Hope, our weather update. We welcome you to viewing this afternoon, and we hope that you do subscribe and like this channel. So, Brother Josiah,
Yes, my brother. So,
what's
so
up
many
with the weather?
places. Well, so many places today it came in for a drenching part of rainfall, and not every part of Antigua even saw one speck of rain. So let's look at it. Um, so so areas in St. John's and to the northern half of the country, even further towards the west, would have come in for some significant rainfall. Based upon our measurements, some places got over, let's say, an inch and a half of rainfall in the space of 3 hours. Barbuda registered roughly about close to 2 inches of rainfall in the space of that small little downpour. So you could understand that the rainfall was quite intense. What we call localized. Why do we say localized? Because when we say normal showers, we are looking at any spot of Antigua can see showers. But when we say localized, it means that some specific spot is likely to see that rainfall. And really, it provided that drencher of a rainfall today.
So should we be expecting any should we be expecting any more downpour over throughout the night and into tomorrow?
Yeah, well, let's say it this way. I just listened to my colleague Bernal and with the National Weather Service here in Antigua Barbuda Meteorological Services, and when we put out our forecast, so I'm just piggybacking off of what he said because I wrote the forecast last night. I was expecting some showers, maybe not so much in what I saw today, but yet still some showers. But what we are expecting going forward is going to be highly dependent on if the wind flow returns a bit. Now, if the wind flow does not necessarily return and it remains light, then we might not see those clouds propagating into our area. However, we are forecasting that the winds should come back a little bit tonight and we should see some clouds moving in. So we can have some nighttime overnight sprinkles. That's much as I'll say. One or two can be prolonged, but we are looking at a greater chance of us seeing some rainfall. Now, going on into tomorrow, there is even a higher chance of rainfall again for tomorrow because the troughiness, a tropical wave, the instability is still there, and we're looking at light wind flow, and with that southeasterly wind flow could really bring in that warm temperature and trigger some stuff up. So we might be looking at some rainfall again in the next 24 hours, albeit we're going to be focusing more on widespread as of local instead of localized.
Okay, that's what I was just about to ask you, because I recognize that yesterday it came this side of the island mostly, and there were complaints that some areas in the eastern corridor did not get a job, and it seems like today again that's the same pattern that was experienced.
Yes, yes, and definitely, and some folks might want to know why is it happening like that? It's happening like that because of the fact that it is driven by thermal activity, heating. So over St. John's and the northern area with a light wind flow, those areas were a little bit more warmer and they generated the necessary trigger for those clouds to form. Remember that I spoke to you about yesterday that heating and the convective process is going up. So when we have those convections building up in what we call unstable atmosphere, then those clouds will just build and build and build and build. That's why we had what we had today. And might I add some one or two claps of thunder? Yeah, we heard some of that today, and that is indicative of the level of instability that the atmosphere has and the heating that triggered it.
Well, I must say that those persons who have cisterns and water tanks are rejoicing, that they don't have to call in the water truck to bring some water for them because their cisterns and water tanks are overflowing. And so it's a good thing that God would have blessed us today with some showers of blessing. And I do
Oh,
wish the same
definitely.
for those people in the eastern part of the corridors. We can't keep it all to ourselves. Um, what else is there in the weather for us to speak about today? Yesterday, when you closed, you indicated that you were going to go into some areas of preparation today.
Yeah. Okay, so and so let's first by giving a snapshot as what our normal tropical weather outlook is. So the National Hurricane Center, we were monitoring an area just northeast of the islands. That area was an area of low pressure, and that area of low pressure has since met or found unfavorable conditions. So the likelihood of it developing is basically non-existent right now. The National Hurricane Center has given it a 0% of doing anything. So it will just remain an area of disturbed weather out there. Out into the open Atlantic, right across to Africa. Yeah, this shot right now that we're looking at is the Eastern Caribbean shot. And that big comma area that you see up there, just to the top right-hand side of your screen, that's the area that we were monitoring with that large tail that spans right over to Florida. That particular area, we're not forecasting it to develop. So it's not forecasting to do anything at all. Out to the open Atlantic, though, continues to be, again, rather quiet. The area from Africa right down to us in Antigua and Barbuda and the Eastern Caribbean, we note that there are dotted some tropical waves. Those tropical waves are not necessarily producing too much. So in terms of tropical storm formation, we are not forecasting any tropical storm formation. We can rest our hearts at ease, right? But as we get down into the summer months, the deeper into the summer months, those tropical waves will be coming off the coast of Africa a little bit more stronger. And as they come off with a little bit more intensity, the warm waters and favorable atmospheric conditions should lend itself to some development. So in terms of what you should be doing right now, remember that I spoke to you, the first aspect of your preparation was to know you. You got to understand you, educate yourself. You need to know about the hazards that come along with these tropical storms, the hazards of flooding, wind, rough seas, etc. We spoke about knowing your vulnerability, where you're weak, at areas of where you're weak, you want to strengthen those areas. If you live in flood-prone areas, you certainly would want to make sure you mitigate against the flood. But here is the fourth one. Well, the fourth one is the plan, is to have a plan. What does that necessarily mean? Well, plan means that you're going to have something written that speaks to the procedure that you will follow in the event of a storm. So if you're going to leave your house, your plan should state where you're going to go. And that should have already been in place. So if you're going to go into a shelter, that speaks to you that you need to plan. Your plan should say, I will go in the event of storm winds, or in the event of flooding, I will go seek a shelter. If not, your plan should state that you will go and stay by a relative. If you are sick, your plan should have all your medical supplies. If you're going to go into a shelter, remember that your plan must itemize all those necessities that you need to have to in the event that you're going to move. If you're going to evacuate, you're going to evacuate stating where you're going to go. So your plan is going to outline every strategy that you will face in the event of a storm, in the event of a flooding. That plan is supposed to speak to those things. Your food supplies, all those things supposed to be written in your plan, so that in the event that someone needs to ask, or you need to ask someone, or someone asks you X, Y, and Z, that you can refer to that plan so they'll know exactly where you are. It is wise to have a plan. Plan now to be safe.
And our plan, I think this year has to be more focused, considering the situation that we're in, the crisis that we're in.
Oh, definitely.
We're hoping not for a second wave, but the word is that there may be a second wave all around the globe. You hear everyone speaking of the second wave. What
Mm-hmm.
if we are on curfew and a storm approaches? You need to already have your flashlight, I assume, and all
All
those
those
things that you're speaking about.
exactly.
Because
But
the long lines, you can't afford to run the risk of these long lines with the social distancing. And at the end of the day, when the storm rolls in, you were not able to get the adequate supplies. So those are things we will take from in stages as we move into the season, so that
that's
our
right.
people are not caught without the relevant preparation.
You know, brother, you hit on a very important point, and it's the dynamics of COVID-19 to your overall hurricane plan too. So if you're so if you're going to go at places into a shelter, social distancing, etc., you have to have your mask, you have to have your hand sanitizer. Those things
Absolutely.
are supposed to be made. You're supposed to plan now, ensure that you have those things in stock so that you don't so that you're not caught off guard in the event you have to move.
Absolutely. And you may be in the comfort of your own home, but you
Mhm.
may find yourself, storms are dangerous, and sometimes we think our homes are resilient to the storm. And then for unknown circumstances, tornadoes, etc., that are within the storm, that
Yes,
our house are destroyed and we have to run for shelter. We need to have
yes,
our bags packed. But we're going to go into it little by little, a
little by
little
little.
nugget here, a little nugget there. We'll get
That's
to
right.
where we're going, definitely. So it's a pleasure having you on again today.
Great
Um,
stuff, man.
the weather is reliable. Most times we snub at the meteorologists and say they're just in a guess game and it didn't work out today. But
No,
you
no,
have
no.
proven that the science works.
Oh yeah, we got to stay with the science of it. We got to stay with the science of it, and let's remain safe not only through storms, but even through these episodes. Driving through some of those episodes today could have been so treacherous because you can't see if the rainfall is coming on heavy. So all those things you have to know how to navigate in this case of difficult circumstances.
Yeah, but before I close, brother, just say that's one of the surprising thing today. From the
Mhm.
downpour we got, I never expected to go out on the road and see so much water.
Yeah.
And it was water, water everywhere. Like it
Yes.
was weeks of rain coming, and then the earth was drenched and saturated, and the
In
water
three
had
hours,
overflowed.
and that was only 3 hours, That was only about like 3 hours to talk about. That was only about
Absolutely,
like three
yes, yes.
hours.
So
Yes.
it tells us that we need to clean our drains. We have to prepare, prepare, prepare,
Prepare,
because we don't
prepare.
know what's ahead in the
That's correct.
future.
That's
Okay.
correct.
So I want to
That's
thank
correct.
you. Thank you again today for informative session, and
Mhm.
always glad to have you. We're looking into, let's keep it quiet. We know it's gonna, if there's a storm, it's gonna get exciting, but that sort of excitement we could do without. So may God
Right
bless
now.
you, and may
Thank you so
you have
much.
a wonderful evening.
And
Take
same
care.
to you too, man. God bless. Okay. Bye.